Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Grand Cruise Astrology. My name is Clayton Cruz, and today I'm going to talk to you mostly about Venus. Talk to you a little bit about Mars as well. Uh, but let's go ahead and do Mars first. Get that out of the way, and then we'll talk about the pleasure planet Venus. So, Mars first. I did a full moon video, and there was a lot going on in the full moon. And we have a full moon here August 3rd, and its effects will be with us for a couple of days after the full moon as well. But this Mars aspect is right around the full moon, and it'll be with us for the remainder of the week, more or less, until we get into the weekend and the next week. So just let's say the first week of August, we're going to have Mars in aspect to Jupiter by square. It's not a minor aspect, but it's not one that I wanted to focus on the full moon. Reason being, Mars and Jupiter those two energies they're friends. They're very chummy with each other. Even when they are intense aspect, which is what a square is, Mars and Jupiter can make a lot from that. They can do very well with it. And so I wanted to focus on some other things about the full moon, but would just know that we have Mars and Jupiter in the sky. And it is an energy that you can use. It will be with you. And so what does that mean? Well, Mars in the sign of Aries, which is very individualistic. It's very headstrong. Mars loves Aries. Mars is the ruling sign of Aries. So Mars it can take action. Aries. It's a fire sign. It's a cardinal sign. It's very go. It just think of like lighting a match. Just boom. It's just there. It is. It's beginning of spring, right? And so Mars in that sign loves it. It can just run. It can just go. Okay. Now, the downside of Mars in Aries is that it's not tempered in any way. It's not controlled. It can be a little bit all over the place. It can be a little bit here today, gone tomorrow. Very impulsive energy when negatively aspected or not. The energy isn't being used in a positive way. It can be very inconsistent, right? So what I like about this square from Jupiter, being that Mars and Jupiter, even in square aspect, can still do pretty well together. I like it because, again, you have Mars in Aries, but you also have Jupiter in Capricorn. Jupiter in Capricorn is going to bring, so Jupiter's nature is going to bring optimism. It's going to bring some hope. It's going to bring some inspiration on any projects we have. But being in the sign of Capricorn, it's also going to bring the Capricornian way of doing business, which is the tried and true, bringing integrity into a situation, doing it one step at a time, because Capricorn is a Saturnian sign ruled by Saturn. So when you have Mars and Jupiter squaring each other, which you will for the first week of August, it is a very good time to get things done. This is a good time to get things done. And not only for this Mars-Jupiter aspect, I also mentioned some other aspects when I did the full moon video that point to a very productive time here in the first week of August. But this aspect especially, this is a really good aspect for getting work done, okay? So long as, it's going to provide the Capricornian energy that Mars needs. Because Mars, on its own, just as an energy, it doesn't see. It can be blind at times. It's just pure action. It acts first, and we'll deal with the consequences later. Mars is just about taking action, and sometimes it can be blind when it's not aspected by other planets in some kind of meaningful way. And so we can have a lot of energy just to do, but what are we doing? Well, this Jupiter energy is going to help contain it a little bit and put it toward things that are actually of value and usefulness in the world, Capricornian things, work, our reputation, our career, just bettering ourselves in any way that we need to do by doing hard work. That's what we have here with this Mars aspect here at the beginning of August. So that's that with Mars. Now with Venus, the pleasure planet, very different. Very different from Mars, but yet they are kind of two sides of the same coin. The ancients saw Mars as the masculine and Venus as the feminine counterpart. So if Mars is about taking action, it's very warlike and uh, confrontational in its relationships. Venus is about cooperation, is about balance, is about finding middle ground and harmony. Okay, so both Mars and Venus, they're relationship planets. Mars is the competitive, Venus is the cooperative. Okay, so we have Mars and Venus, and so as of right now, Mars and Venus by sign they're in good aspect to one another, and that'll be the case here for the next week or so, a few days, week. Let's see, yeah, that'll be they'll be in good aspect until we get to um, about the 8th of um, August, and then Venus is going to go into Cancer, and by sign it will be making a square to Mars, um, which can be doesn't necessarily have to be something to worry about or write home about. But there could be more volatility when we talk about relationships. But that won't be happening until the latter part of Cancer once Venus gets further on into Cancer. And I'll probably do another video about that when the time comes. But for now, Venus and Mars in good aspect to one another. Venus is still packing a punch. It's still moving slowly. It's come out of retrograde. It came out of retrograde. Uh, it came out of retrograde right around. Excuse me one moment here. Yeah, Venus came out of retrograde early June. Okay. And as I said, when planets are heading into retrograde, when they're going out of retrograde and stationing direct, that time period right around the retrograde, both before and after, the planet, in this case Venus, is moving slowly. Okay, it's not moving as fast. So even though we are almost a couple of months out of that retrograde motion, it's just now starting to get back up to speed. Okay, and so once it does get up to speed, once it gets further into Cancer, the punch that we talk about with Venus is going to slowly subside. It's going to become a mild energy again. However, it's not there yet. It's still packing a punch. Let me tell you why. Because it is conjunct the North Node. It will be conjunct the North Node for, I'll give you the exact dates of that conjunction, for, right around, right between, I don't know, maybe August 5th, 6th, maybe 7th, right before it goes into Cancer. You could say that the Venus is going to be conjunct, and really right up until between now until we get to Saturday, August 8th, you can kind of say that we're in North Node territory for Venus. So what does that mean? Well, I've done other videos about the nodes, and we know, I'm not going to get into a whole technical thing about the nodes right now, but we know that the nodes are just a mathematical point in the sky where the ecliptic and the celestial equator connect, and you have a north node and you have a south node, and they have different astrological meanings. They are always 180 degrees apart from one another. So in this case, we have the north node at 28 degrees Gemini. We're going to have the south node at 28 degrees Sagittarius. The traditional meaning for the north node is the imagery of the dragon's head, energy coming in. The south node, energy going out, the dragon's tail. All right, so some metaphors for you. But just know when we have Venus, which we will this week, going over the north node, it's going to bring in Venusian energy. It's like a power surge of Venusian energy. And we're going to be seeing that. Now, we've been dealing with Venus in Gemini since April. I mean, it's been there. It's been in the sign. And it went into Gemini. And Venus in Gemini, what is Venus in Gemini? Venus is all about relationships, how we connect with one another on a one-to-one, finding balance socially. The reason I say social because it's in Gemini. Gemini is an air sign, right? It also can have to do with things to do with working with your hands in some kind of way because Gemini is a Mercury ruled sign and Mercury rules the hands. So with Venus in the sign, it kind of brings some favorable energy into that space, right? And so with Venus in Gemini, um, we've been experiencing some of the benefits of that. However, it went in April and then it went retrograde. Okay. And so I've kind of saw it, and I did a video about it at the time. But when Venus went into Gemini, it was sort of a few weeks of wanting to express, wanting to connect, wanting to socialize. That's Venus in Gemini, very social time when you have Venus in Gemini. And if you remember, that was kind of right around the time that we, kind of early April into mid-April, where we were starting to, we had the COVID lockdowns here in the United States. We had them in March. And then in April, getting into spring, we were starting to come out a little bit and venture out and connect. And we were still trying to find our bearings for how that was going to be, how it was going to work, right? We were still experimenting with that, okay? And so when we had that, we had that few weeks there in April where Venus was in Gemini. And it was in shadow period. That's what the astrologers call a shadow period because it was getting ready to go retrograde. And it was actually going to be retrograding over that same part of Gemini that it was going forward in early April. So what does that mean? It means that with the planet in shadow, in this case Venus in Gemini, it can mean that we maybe went too far too fast on trying to go out and socialize and be connected, because Venus in Gemini likes to connect with everyone. It likes to connect all the dots. It likes to network. It likes to explore all the pieces of the puzzle and then put them all together. That's what Venus in Gemini likes to do. And so we were kind of in a space where we were exploring that. We were kind of, because Venus hadn't gone retrograde yet, we were kind of going with what we knew and applying the past to the present to understand how we move forward in this. But then Venus went retrograde in Gemini. So once Venus went retrograde, that kind of brought in a period of 3 weeks of reflection on, okay, as far as the Venusian energy, which has to do with relating to one another on a one-to-one level, we're going to reflect on that and take inventory of what's going to work in the new world that we're living in. And I say the new world because there were other aspects happening in the sky that were affecting what was going on in our lives, not just Venus. And so Venus going retrograde at that time said, okay, we need to reflect on the larger reality of what's happening and apply that to what we carry forward. So yeah, then we had Venus going direct in early June. And when it did, that was sort of more of a time of where we were starting to feel out once again, okay, now that we have some time under our belt and we've been dealing with this Geminian energy for a while, we've taken the retrograde, we've reflected, now we can start to put it forward one step at a time and see what works and what doesn't. Now, when Gemini first went direct in early June and into July, I mean, it was still in shadow, it was moving very slowly. So I kind of see it as like we were kind of inching forward, maybe try this, see if it works, try that. And, oh, I can go here and do this. I can't go here and do that. And, we're still trying to find out, what's what and how we navigate socially. Because with Venus and Gemini, it's about navigating socially in a very superficial way. Venus and Gemini is about connecting, not, so much in a romantic, I mean, it can be, but it's more about connecting in relationship on a very superficial, day-to-day, community, local, like going down to the store, going to the post office, these things that are integral into our daily lives. If it's talking about romance, we're more talking about dating, connecting casually. So there was a lot of reassessing how we're going to do that. How do we do these things, and how do we make it work? And so we did the work of reflecting on that, and then it went forward. Now it's forward. It's out of shadow, and it's back almost up to full speed again. Not quite, but just as it starts to go full speed, it's hitting the north node. The nodes, uh, as far as their meaning of how they affect our lives, the nodes are about larger than life, karma and dharma. This isn't about day to day energy so much. This is about big picture soul direction. All right. It's less concerned with, you know, what does today look like? It's more concerned, okay, is our compass pointed in the right direction, right? Um, that's how you can think of it. Now, the south node is where, sort of, in a very simplistic terms, the south node kind of represents where we've been, what we've mastered as a collective, and the north node represents where we're headed right now. Given all the dynamics in the sky, as a collective, we have the north node in Gemini. So, and we have the south node in Sagittarius. So, how I understand that as a collective, our compass arrow is pointed toward the north node of new experience, where we are headed, where we are going, and we are bringing the past, what we have learned, what we have gained from the south node in Sagittarius, into the present of Gemini. Now, how do you make day-to-day sense of that? Well, Gemini is a very day-to-day energy. Sagittarius is about philosophy. It's about higher ideals, things that, as a collective, things that we have learned together over time, right? Things that make sense. It's not about getting in the weeds, getting into the muck of this and that. It's about the overarching meaning and the truth behind it. Gemini, on the other hand, where the north node is about, okay, yeah, but how do I apply that to my day to day? How does it practically make any difference? Yeah, you know the truth, but how is that true for here and now today for me living my life, right? And so that north node direction, it's like we're getting out of the ivory tower of the Sagittarius of like contemplating and philosophizing about the truth behind this and that, and the essence, and more about, okay, how do we practically apply that information? And so that's what the nodes represent. Venus going into the north node in Gemini brings some balance, some poise, some elegance into the day-to-day energy of Gemini. So everything that we've been doing in Gemini, understanding how to relate to one another in a casual one-to-one way in our communities, in our locales over the past few months, with Venus and Gemini going retrograde and then going direct, everything that we've learned now, it's almost like it's going to the north node. We're getting a power surge of that energy, of that awareness of how to apply and how to do it. We may feel for this week time that there is that there's an energy with us that is it's like a wind at our back, to use the new normal to not only get by, but to create for ourselves that which is maybe better than we would have ever had before. You know what I mean? It's sort of, Gemini is an air sign. It's about, technology as well. It's about using technology to make those connections in ways that we never thought before, because this is the new normal. The North Node is about the unknown. We are sort of venturing there with this conjunction. And so, as I see it in a lot of ways, this can be about, okay, well, with Venus on the North Node, okay, well, it's about like understanding what is, how we can create a new world for ourselves given the new rules. So, like, for example, do we need to drive, into the city an hour away, for, to get to work, to be there to sit in a cubicle? Or Is it, I mean, have we reached a point where it makes more sense to cut that out and to actually, work remotely, right? Working remotely, communicating, connecting remotely. This is a big theme of Venus and Gemini. With the North Node there, it's opening up a portal, if you will, to get mystical about it, of possibility where we could um, leapfrog into the future, if you want to call it that. We can what may have taken a decade for us to come around and maybe understand that, hey, maybe we don't have to uh, drive into work, or we don't have to actually meet in person. We don't have to fly across the country to have this meeting or whatever. We can just do it, from our homes or from, our locale. These awarenesses coming in like that with Venus on the North Node, it really does circumvent time. It really does, because it's a power surge, and it's with the North Node. It's going into the unknown, and it's trying things out. So it's a very positive energy. I like it. So what's the astrological suggestion or the guidance here? I would say just be very open and to play around with what you have at your disposal with your hands, as far as connecting with other people. Um, on your laptops, on your electronic devices. You're talking about air signs here. Get very experimental with that and have a lot of fun with it, and be open and try things out, because this could propel you forward leaps and bounds, just by getting a little bit curious. So that's good energy there. Now, that's just the first part of Venus, and that is up until we get to the 8th. So for the first week of August or so, we're going to have Venus and Gemini still, and it's going to be conjunct the North Node. However, it is on the 8th, and this will be in play for that weekend, that Saturday and Sunday, so maybe the 8th and 9th. We are going to have Venus in Cancer, conjunct the North Node eclipse point back in late June 21st on the solstice. So if you remember, on the solstice, we had an eclipse. It was 0 degrees Cancer. I had a whole video about that, and how 0 degrees Cancer, it's a cardinal sign, very influential energy as far as starting something new. Cancer is the sign of labor, of birth, of birthing something. It's the moon. It's lunar energy, right? 0 degrees is like the point of conception, right? And so when we had that eclipse there, which is a North Node eclipse, is like a power surge of that 0 degrees Cancer. It created this cardinal energy, this bursting forth of possibility, right? 0 degrees Cancer, possibility of birthing something new, birthing a new world, right? I mean, very maternal in its nature, very emotional, very connected to feeling, intuitive, right? Has a lot to do with family, collective in a way, but more like cultural community and family, and also memory, sort of lineage, memory in our lineage, right? It's 0 degrees there. That eclipse, it sort of brought in this new birthing of potential from these Cancerian things that I just mentioned. Okay, and now, as I always say about eclipses, whenever you have an eclipse, there's the event itself, which has significance for that time period, but then it sort of leaves an imprint in the sky for the next 6 months or so until we get to the next eclipse cycle. It leaves an imprint in the sky so that when other planets aspect that position, it's supercharged, a lot like what we have with Venus connecting with the North Node. Now it's going to be connecting with that previous eclipse point. So that is, again, another power surge. This time, once we get to August 8th, 9th, it's going to be in the sign of Cancer, 0 degrees Cancer. So it's going to be very strong, yes, a power surge of Venusian energy. But when we're talking about Venus going over a part of the sky that, when we had the eclipse, it was sort of raw emotion, this sort of raw, infantile almost, because it was brand new. It was 0 degrees Cancer, conception, birthing something completely brand new, not yet time tested, hadn't really had any interactions. It was just, here I am birthing the newborn, absolutely unfettered and not weathered at all, right? And so it, like a newborn baby, it can be very cute and very promising and hopeful, full of potential, but it can also be very loud, and it can be very demanding. And a lot of these things that newborn babies are, they are uh, very subjective, and they need care, right? That's Cancerian, okay? So that's kind of what that 0 degrees energy kind of represents, as I understand it. But with Venus going over this position, it takes a lot of that raw energy that we experienced back over the summer and earlier in the summer, and it smooths it out a little bit, right? It brings a little bit of emotion, a poise and harmony to the emotional surface, right? It brings out the better side of that 0 degree Cancer energy. It brings out the potential. It brings out the pure potential. It brings out the possibility. It brings out the pleasure principle. It brings out the the attraction to that 0 degree Cancer energy. It brings out the innocence. It brings out all the good qualities of what you would think of a newborn energy, right? That's what it does there. So I would look for during this time, if you're starting new projects, or if there's something that is very new, near and dear, and that it is needing to be nurtured, or you're seeking out that kind of energy for yourself, I think August 8th, 9th, right around that time, good time for it. I like it. Now, once we get later into the month, Venus is going to be moving through all the same, well, it's going to be moving through Cancer. Now, remember when Cancer, we had Mercury go retrograde in Cancer, and we had 2 new moons in Cancer. We've had a lot of activity in Cancer. Some of it was very promising and hopeful and awesome, and some of it was a little bit, well, maybe disappointing or emotional, or even shocking in some ways. I mean, there was a lot of aspects playing with this Cancerian energy. It kind of made it a mixed bag, and it was very intense, a lot of it. But with Venus going through here, it's going to smooth over a lot of that surface. Even though Venus is going to be making some more challenging aspects once we get later into August and into September, I do see it as an opportunity to bring a little bit more balance and a little bit more perspective and poise and harmony into that Cancerian space that got rocked so much earlier in the summer. It was just very raw, right? And so I do see some of that smoothing over. Now, yeah, and it will make some challenging aspects later. But the thing about challenging aspects with Venus, so long as we exercise a little bit of temperance and moderation and hold to the balance that Venus is offering, and don't get too carried away with indulgence, we should be all right. Because that's sort of the key word with Venus. That's really the primary way that people get in trouble with a negatively aspected Venus, is going too far with self-indulgence. So that's really the only caveat, the only warning. I really don't think we're going to have problems with that, potential problems with that, until we get till later in August. I don't see that being on the menu right away. So I'll do more videos. I'll add that into the other videos I'm going to do. I'm certainly going to do other videos about Mars, because Mars is starting. This is the first wave, if you will, of Mars making some very interesting aspects that are going to be with us from now to the end of the year. And so later this month, we're going to have Mars starting its warpath, if you will. It's going to kick things up. But again, we've dealt with Mars before. The only difference with Mars now is it's going to be going square to planets in Capricorn. I'm going to do more videos about that. But it's going to be a little bit harkening back to some of the things that we were dealing with back in March and April. And so a square aspect is different. We had Mars on those planets back in March and April. Now we're going to have, going forward and later in August, we're going to have Mars square. So it's revisiting that a little bit, but now there's this energy of, there's an energy of independence and singularity and individual, because you have Mars in Aries, which that's what it's about. So that is going to be causing tension with this energy that's more about structure, order, the system. Okay, so there could be some rub there, but that's kind of to be expected. We're in, the times that we're in right now. That's seems to be right on time. So, the astrology speaks to it as well. I'll do more videos about that when we get there. But for now, enjoy the Venus energy. It's there. It should be in a lot of ways smoothing up some emotional surfaces, and also our unconscious and our subconscious as well. Some of that deeper rooted emotion that we carry, that more instinctual feel that we have. Once Venus gets into Cancer, which will be on the 8th, I think that we're going to have a little bit, there's going to be more a feel of, we're going to feel a little more secure in ourselves, in our communities, at a very, very deep level. It doesn't mean that on the surface things won't be chaotic at times, but this is speaking to a deeper, more internal energy that we carry that could potentially smooth things over a little bit, and it might be nice. Cancer is a lunar sign. It also rules memory, so we might find with Venus in the sign of Cancer that our memory is a little bit sharper too. That we're a little bit more poised with having all our ducks in a row and just having our domestic situation a little bit more in hand, right? That's kind of what Venus and Cancer is going to bring, and it's a good time to get together with family. I think there will be opportunity to have pleasurable time in that regard. Family, local community, your locale, just out in public in a very general sense, all right? With all precautions in mind, of course. Okay, so that's what I got for this Venus and also Mars here for the near future. Have fun with that energy. It's a very nice one to enjoy. And I'll get back to you with the Mars energy and fill you in on when it's going to be kicking things up. But for now, have a good time with Venus, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.